Back to the daily grind with the only free MMA channel that fucking matters, full-time MMA. And oh shit, boys and girls, get your popcorn ready. Tyron Woodley demands a public apology from Dana White or he's gonna start leaking some shit. Ooh. I ain't gonna go in. Tyron Woodley did a whole rant on MMA Hour, Ariel Helwani's show. You can go to MMAfighting.com and get an article with all the things Tyron Woodley laid out. It's a lot, so I'm not going to cover everything, but I am going to read a couple select paragraphs with some good points and talk about the subject. So, if you remember, Dana White just defeated Damian Maia, UFC 214, over the weekend. John Jones, Daniel Cormier main event. He was the co-main event. In the fight, Damian Maia was unsuccessful in every takedown attempt. 24 takedowns in a row. He tried and he failed every single one. Damian Maia didn't do any real damage to Tyron Woodley, and he lost via unanimous decision. Tyron Woodley disclosed the injury after the fight, that he tore his labrum at the end of the first round, he says, the beginning of the second round. So the entire fight, as the champion, he was fighting with an injured arm and still was able to defend every single takedown and do more damage in the fight. Yet Woodley's taken a lot of criticism over the fight because the fight wasn't the most entertaining fight. And Tyron Woodley's coming out and he's saying, Dana White even criticized Tyron Woodley. He came out and said, yeah, no, I'm taking away the GSP fight from Tyron Woodley because who would want to watch that? They threw two little punches in the fight, so the fans aren't going to want to watch him fight. Therefore, he doesn't get rewarded with a super fight in the George St. Pierre fight. That's not what Tyron Woodley's complaining about. He's complaining about the fact that Dana White is supposed to be promoting the champion, and instead he comes out and he demotes his fighters sometimes. And that is something I mean, I've thought about it, but I never thought about it as I've never really dissected it. But think about this. Dana White and the UFC are promoters. That's like they're literally the job title, right? So when you come out and you say bad things or discouraging things about your fighters and you encourage people to not watch their fights, I talked about that with whenever Dana White got into a Twitter beef with the fan and he was telling him don't watch UFC 215, the Demetrius Johnson card. And it's like you're demoting the card. And I thought about that. So that's interesting. And so listen to what Tyron Woodley has to say. He says, I don't care so much what the fans have to say, but when your job title is the promoter, promote your fucking fighters. Promote your champions. Don't demote your champions. I threw my shoulder out in the first round. I wasn't able to throw any damaging shots. For you guys who don't understand what a labrum tear is, go get on Google or Wikipedia and figure it out. I still stayed the course. I stayed the path. I stayed on point. I executed a game plan. I had to reduce all of my shots from my overhands, uppercuts, and the things that were hurting from my shoulder to straight punches. So sorry in advance. I'm mad because I've had this surgery before, and it's not a fun one. It's not a quick recovery. It's not something that I'm excited about. I'm going to get a couple second opinions. Literally, I'm in the Uber right now. I just fucking got out of the doctor's office like right this second. There's paperwork in my hands, so I'm just owed a public apology. You're going to publicly scrutinize me, Dana White. You publicly need to apologize to me. Damn. So, I'll take a pause break right there because there's another paragraph where he threatens to start leaking shit. And that's the next paragraph. So, he's pretty much saying, like, you're supposed to be promoting me as a champion and you're demoting me. I got injured in the fight. That hindered my performance. What about my opponent? What about my opponent? If I'm injured in the fight, shouldn't he start turning it up? Isn't that his opportunity to start coming and damaging me? You know, whenever someone sees their opponent's injured in a fight, you know that's when it's time. Like whenever you see someone's leg injured, like in the Michael Chandler fight, when Britt Primus seen that his leg was injured, he started kicking that leg more. Now, if Damian Maia might not have noticed Tyron Woodley was injured, but that still doesn't change the fact Tyron Woodley was injured. So if you're injured, that explains why you can't be as explosive as normal. But what about your opponent? Where's the scrutiny for the opponent? Tyron Woodley goes on to talk about that. He said, I've done nothing but good stuff for the sport. I've done nothing but been a good model for the fucking organization. I go out there and I fight with integrity. I cover your sport for Fox, from the Fox desk a week before my fight. I always uphold my responsibilities to the organization. It's a timeout for that. The word behind business is man. You need to be a man. You owe me a public apology, and if I don't get that, I'm going to start leaking some shit that people don't want out in the wind. And I'm not even kidding about that. You know, Ariel, he tried to dig. He said, so what are you talking about? Will you elaborate? He said, they know what I'm referring to, and I'm due a public apology. I better get it. I'm just tired of it. When you think about the me and Stephen Thompson's fight 1 and fight 2, what was really the difference between the first and the second fight? There was really not much of a difference. There was some casing, there was waiting, there was some evaluating, there was some counterpunching, and there was me hurting him to a point where the referee looked like he was going to get in. One fight deemed a fight of the night at UFC 205 in November, and the second fight got crazy scrutiny. And so, now there was a little bit of a difference between the two fights, but he has a good point, because in the first fight, if you remember, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson almost got knocked out and submitted. Like, his face was tore up after the fight. And he's got a good point, though. It was fight of the night at UFC 205. Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez was on that card. That was a stacked card. There was a lot of good fights on that card. So for them to get fight of the night right there, the only two fights he's had since then is another Stephen Wonderboy fight and the Damian Maia fight. So those were his last two fights were boring, and everyone talks about him being the most boring fighter in the world. Some people take into consideration the fact that styles make fights. You put him against a counter striker in Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and he doesn't play into Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's game, it can be a boring fight. What about Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's critics? Whenever they say, why didn't you press the action? It's your turn to earn the belt. You're supposed to go in there and try and knock out the champion. And Dana White tells Stephen Thompson, don't worry, the fans don't have to get in the ring with Tyron Woodley. Don't worry about their criticism. So Tyron Woodley goes on to talk about that. That's why I bring it up. So he says, nobody scrutinized Dana White. Why didn't you outstrike Tyron? Why didn't you stand in the pocket with him? Why didn't you exchange? Why didn't you push and hit him? Why weren't you able to take him down? But I'm the champion and I get the scrutiny. Nobody scrutinized Stephen Thompson. I overheard Dana White tell Stephen Thompson, oh, don't let the fans get to you. Let them get in there with Tyron Woodley. I never heard those remarks. I need some respect. Alright, that's enough. I'm not reading anymore because I feel like I've already read too much of that shit. And, yeah, you get the fucking point. Tyron Woodley wants some respect. He's threatening to start leaking some shit. Dana White, you know he's going to respond. Ooh, I just can't wait for motherfucking El Jefe's response. Tyron Woodley's, oh, fuck, man. Yep, all he's missing is the racism bomb. I mean, he's got good points, like I said. Now, I don't know why exactly Dana White chooses to demote Tyron Woodley. I don't understand that. But at the same time, you got to be on the side of the fans. It's what the fans want. And if the majority of the fans are criticizing Tyron Woodley, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not a fucking promoter. I'm not a demoter either. So I'm going to fucking leave it there. Let the hitters talk about this shit in the comments. I'm looking forward to the comment section on this one because I know there's a lot of people that are pissed off at Tyron Woodley, but at the same time, Tyron Woodley's got some good points. And you gotta respect the fucking champion at some point in your life. So let the hitters know what the fuck you tell me in the comments, dude. So I was out on a dinner date with Oscar's mom, and she dropped tomato sauce on her shirt. She looked down and said, "Oh, I look like a pig." And I said, "Yeah, and you dropped tomato sauce on your shirt."